This week we are continuing on with writing recounts, and we are going to write another personal recount. So, why do we write recounts? Last week you would have explored the purpose of recounts and who we write recounts for. We know that a recount retells an experience or an event that has happened in the past, and the purpose of a recount can be to inform, entertain, or to reflect and evaluate. When we write recounts, we can focus on a specific section of an event, or we can retell an entire story. It should always be retold in the order that it happened. So we call this sequential order. You can hear the word sequence, and when we put things into sequence, we always put them from the first thing that happened to the very last thing that happened. So this week we're learning to retell something that's personally happened to us, and we're doing this so that we can build relationships between the writer and the reader. So in this case, your teachers are the readers. We are your audience. So you need to make sure that when you're writing recounts, you've got to include all the information because we weren't there when it happened. You need to make sure you include detail so that we, as your audience, know exactly what happened at the time. A recount has a structure, and we looked at this a little bit last week. So we need to make sure that we always include a title. So that's just a brief name for the experience or the event that happened. We include an orientation. Now, we've been calling this our sizzling start, but a sizzling start just introduces the audience to what the text is going to be about. So you don't give away anything too soon, but you've got about 20 seconds to hook your reader in, and you just tell a little bit about when or where or who was there. In your next paragraph, now you can have 2 to 3 paragraphs of the events, and in our first paragraph in our events, we go into the first thing that happened, and then each paragraph after that is the sequence of the events. And then you've got an ending, which we're going to be doing this week. We didn't do that last week, but when we write our recounts this week, we're going to be including an ending, and that just tells a little bit about how the experience ended and any feelings or thoughts you have about that. So just remembering and doing a little bit of a recap of our English unit this term. It is called My Life's Journey, and the first 2 weeks are about where we have been. So our learning intention for this week is that we're learning to recount events that have happened in our life so far. So you're going to be using that list of events that you did in Activity 1 last week. Our success criteria. This is always in our workflow, so please refer back to this each time you start English. I can read and respond to texts that recount a person's life. I can compose a personal recount of events that have happened in my life. I can use figurative language in my text to engage my audience. I loved how people were using some similes last week. Keep that up. All questions are answered in a thoughtful manner, including as much detail as possible. Some people need to go back and just think about, are they successful in that part of the criteria? Have you included as much detail as you can? We're in Year 5 and Year 6. We don't want to see just one-worded answers. Have you taken the time to reread and edit your answers to ensure that your spelling and punctuation are correct? So it's okay to just write an answer, but remember, you need to go back and just check. Does it make sense? Is my spelling correct? And is my punctuation correct? And have you written all your answers in complete sentences? Now, it's not dot points unless you're asked to. It's always complete sentences because this is an English unit.